Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome in here to Murder Church on a Tuesday night. Thanks for coming in. If you're on the old X machine on Twitter, please give it a share. Y'all already know the drill. Give this one a like as well. Helps us out. YouTube likes to be tickled like that. But yeah, getting ready to come at you. We're going to be going into a day 4 breakdown of this Ponzi scheme murder trial. The state is accusing Natalie Cochran of poisoning Michael Cochran. Again, she's already in prison because of admitting to the Ponzi scheme, and they're trying to keep her locked up. So yeah, we're going to be coming at you for a little bit of this, and let's go.
Let's rock.
Hello, everybody. What's going on? Welcome in here again to another episode of Murder Church. This time the normal time frame, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Appreciate everyone that comes through the old Buzz Nation here, graces us with their presence. Again, if anybody could give that the old share ski, I appreciate it. I'm going to look now. Oh, shit, Taryn Dusty with the share. Thank you, Taryn. Appreciate that. Laura with the share as well. Thank you very much. Hell yeah. We're going to be going in here again into the day 4, breaking it down here, the Natalie Cochran trial that they're trying to lock her all the way up for. We're going to go in here. We're really going to watch Dr. Diane Krieger, her testimony. That's the only one we're going to watch in full. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of go as by memory as what I'm doing. I thought she was the most interesting. Again, they're trying to prove basically that Natalie poisoned him with insulin, with an insulin injection, or however many it took to get him down to when he arrived after passing out in the kitchen with a blood glucose, a sugar level of 21, which is absolutely insane. Let me look in here real quick. And then I was live. Anybody that's not following me on X, you should be, because I'm covering this one live. And also this lady right here, Josephine Moore. She's actually from this area. Again, I'm in West Virginia. I can attest to how terrible the hospitals are here. This lady right here, essentially, state asked, I'm just going to go through my notes here. State asked Dr. Diane Krieger what cerebral edema is, which Michael Cochran had. Cerebral edema refers to the swelling of the brain due to an accumulation of fluid. This condition can be life-threatening because the brain is confined within the skull, which does not allow for expansion, leading to increased intracranial pressure. And one of the most frustrating things about this is that, again, how shitty the hospitals are here in this area. Again, I'm about an hour away from this area. Is they didn't do any of the tests that we really needed for essentially the state to prove if she did kill him in such a fashion. So we're in a weird position in this one. I know there's a lot of different opinions out there, and I hope that you bring them to the chat. Because personally, I kind of think that she did murder him. I can see it, and I can see a jury even still seeing it with what they've done, but I don't think they have fully proven it. There's still tons of reasonable doubt in here. But I don't come at this fully from a defense area either. That's a lot of the creators come specifically from the defense, and I get that. The state has to prove their case. It's not the other way around. But also, I play this as a juror, essentially, and also jurors are definitely watching and absorbing all this information, and the The details that are inside of this case, like the fact that Natalie got the insulin from her neighbor the same exact day when he passes out for good, that's not good. The fact that she didn't want to call 911 after many different folks were begging her to, that's not good. So there's a lot of factors where I could see even right now that the jury could find her guilty. So let's see who's in here right now. Carrie's in the house. What's going on? Pokemon. Shelly coming through. Halle Berry up in here. Let's see if these are working right now. Let's see if we got a few here working. Hold on. Yeah, we got it. Pammy up in her. Missy Mayhem coming through. Love it. Brooklyn? What are you doing, Brooklyn? Huh? Hold on. Brooklyn! What's up? Kevin coming through here. What's up, Kevin? In the heels. Hey, Laura. Thanks a lot for that share. Appreciate that. She's also saying, hit the motherfucking like. She don't mess around, son. Tina in here also. Love it. Love to see it. Still looking through here real quick. I'll tell you what I do see. The Buzz Nation is in here hanging and banging pretty damn hard. That's what I like to see. Hell yeah. Hanging and banging. Before we do jump in here, of course, per the usual here tonight, we're going to be having a wheel wide open for anybody that would like to get on that thing. We're still working on giving away some t-shirts. And I would like to show, I put up 2 new shirts today in the old merch shop. And I've also, I've got something else ordered in the fashion of stickers. I don't remember what it was. I think it's a magnet, maybe a Murder Church magnets are on the way. But yeah, check out these 2 new shirts. I got these jams out here today. A spicy shirt, because that was just a dope-ass logo. You also got that emoji, any Buzz Nation members in the chat. And then an F and Oath shirt has finally arrived to the shop. And also, these things have multiple colors, and so does the spicy one. So yeah, those are available to be picked if we get to a wheel. And we're very close here tonight. Let's see exactly how close we are. Just to see, just before we get started here, we're about to go into this trial right now, commence anyways, but we're really close. We are currently at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we are 3 away from a spin, and again, we're giving away a shirt. So to get on that, of course, you see it up top, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Supers, becoming a member, which also gets you a lot of dank-ass stuff in the video section. But yeah, let's jump in here and see exactly what the fuck is going on in this trial out of Beckley, West Virginia, folks. Again, an hour away. Get the sound in here. And bring your opinions again in the chat on this one. I know that a lot of people are watching this with Broken Baker, and Broken Baker doesn't think that the state has a case whatsoever. So I know that there's a lot of different opinions here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Uh-oh. Now, Mr. Selden, would you call your witness to make sure that she...
Might be better.
Krieger.
Certainly.
Dr. Diane Krieger.
Members of the jury, we have had some difficulty blowing up the video screen. It's kind of small, but I think you can still see the witness, and we may just have to go along with what we have.
Speaker, mic.
Let's get her going here.
Contact.
Did hook up with Teams initially.
Okay.
I can unmute my
Okay. So,
Great.
you swear?
DIAN.
Thank you. Doctor, are you currently employed?
I am.
And what is your occupation?
I am a physician and endocrinologist with Endocrinology Associates in Miami, Florida, and I am an associate professor of medicine and head of endocrinology at the Florida International University College of Medicine.
Your Honor, I hate to interrupt, but our expert cannot hear her at all now. I don't know what's going on.
I found out this
All right.
dude's name. Actually, I posted it.
Let me do
This
something.
dude is this guy right here that's been doing a lot of the legwork after the Polish guy. Defense attorney Stanley Sheldon is questioning Dr. Diane currently. Yeah, we're going to get into this right now. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Appreciate it.
Can you hear me through the telephone?
Can you hear the telephone?
Can you hear me through the telephone?
We're checking.
Can you hear her?
Okay, because I originally was muted, then I unmuted to see if that would help you. And now I need to figure out how to mute again.
Here, Doctor.
Oh my
What?
God.
Yeah. Signal. Krieger.
Great.
We can hear her fine, you douchebag.
Don't answer that.
Can't hear.
I should have checked this out earlier.
Technology, could you explain to us what that is, please?
Yes.
Okay.
Outstanding.
Okay, here we go. Let's rock, baby.
How many lawyers does it take to get a phone call?
This is actually right where I bopped in this morning. Right there. Like, I missed the perfect amount of horse
My life
shit.
every day.
Well, doctor, through our Supreme
Dick
Court, we
say.
have 1995 technology, so welcome to West Virginia. Doctor, before you stopped, you were mentioning endocrinology. Could you explain to us what that is, please?
Yes, endocrinology is a subspecialty of internal medicine that deals with the function of all the glands in the body, such as the pancreas, which makes insulin, and the thyroid, which makes thyroid hormone, the pituitary, that makes a lot of hormones that direct the other hormones, the ovaries and the testes. So we specialize in problems that happen in glands.
Now, doctor, to get to this point, what kind of training did you have, please?
I have an undergraduate degree from Cornell University. From there, I went to the University of California, San Francisco, where I received a medical degree. From there, I crossed the country to Boston, where I went to the Beth Israel Hospital, a major teaching institution of Harvard Medical School. I did my internal medicine residency there, and then stayed on for a fellowship.
Doctor, could you tell us in summary fashion your work experience, please?
Yes. My first job was at the
Shelley,
University
thanks
of
for that share.
Miami Diabetes Research Institute, where I was an assistant clinical professor of medicine, taking care of patients, teaching medical students, and doing research. In 1991, I opened a private practice in Miami and have since then been practicing endocrinology in what started as a group with just me and now has 5 endocrinologists. And I then joined the faculty at a new medical school about 12 years ago, the Florida International University College of Medicine, where I am now head of endocrinology and associate professor of medicine. I teach second-year medical students the pathophysiology of endocrinology, and I teach the clinical studies of third-year medical school students and first-year residents.
Now, doctor, have you published any peer-reviewed articles?
Yes. During the time...
Hold on, actually, I'm also going to get through her fucking expertise, because we know she's a fucking expert.
Opinions and findings, is that correct? And it's 7 pages long, is that right? Attention that would cause you to make changes or amendments to your report? Medical.
As an expert?
Post expert witness.
She's an
There you are.
expert.
We
We
accept
got her,
her as an
boys.
Very well.
On
Dr.
up.
Krieger will be accepted by the court as an expert in her field.
Doctor, at the state's request, you reviewed some medical records and you drafted a report of your opinions and findings, is that correct?
That's correct.
You wrote one report dated April 13th, 2023, and it's 7 pages long, is that right?
That is correct.
Since drafting that report, have you had anything brought to your attention that would cause you to make changes or amendments to your report?
No.
Your Honor, at this time, state moves State 18 into evidence.
All right. Have you seen that, Mr. Selden?
I have, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
States number 18 will be admitted into evidence.
Doctor, in preparation for your report, what records did you review?
I have a list of those records. Would you like me to read them?
I think that might be helpful, please.
I have records from the Charleston Area Medical Center, from Orthopedic and Spine Surgery Associates, the records of Dr. R. Patel, the records of the Raleigh General Hospital, West Virginia Controlled Substance Drug
Yeah,
Law,
Raleigh General is
Bureau
terrible.
of Criminal Investigation.
They didn't do like any of the
Lieutenant
tests that they should have
G.C.
done
Interview
for
with
something
Stephanie
strange like
Allison,
this happening.
STD tool mark worksheet, and an autopsy report.
And that the autopsy report was from the State Medical Examiner's Office in West Virginia, is that correct?
That is correct.
Doctor, what's the cause of death of Michael Cochran, according to your review of the records?
Well, I'm not a cause of death expert since I'm an endocrinologist. My expertise is in hypoglycemia. But it appears that his death was related to hypoglycemia, which then produced cerebral edema.
And that's what I'd ask you, if you feel competent to do so. Can you explain what cerebral edema is?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't hear you well.
Sure. Can you explain to us what cerebral edema is?
Certainly. Cerebral edema is swelling of the brain cells, and that is usually caused by either not enough blood sugar going to the brain cells or not enough oxygen going to the brain cells.
In your report, you indicate a number of, well, for lack of a better word, pieces of information or tests that could have been performed at one point or another that would have helped you be more definitive in your assessment of the case. Could you explain to me what you meant by that?
Yes. When a person presents with a very low blood sugar, which we call hypoglycemia, there are very specific tests that should be done prior to the
These tests weren't
treatment
done.
of the
This
low
is
blood
crazy.
sugar. There
That's
are
so
a list of
fucked.
tests
You're living
I
here,
can tell you
man.
each
I
one
was like, yep.
specifically if you'd like.
Sounds about
Please.
right.
But unfortunately, you would like me to? Okay. We do an insulin level, a C-peptide level, a pro-insulin level, a beta-hydroxybutyrate, a glycinide sulfonylurea screen. And those tests help us determine whether the low blood sugar was related to insulin or not, and where the insulin could have come from. The test needs to be done prior to the treatment of the low blood sugar.
In this case,
And unfortunately, in this case, the tests were not performed. I can tell you that I've reviewed many cases, as I told you, of my prior experience, and it is close to zero in any of those cases that the tests were performed. And it's unfortunate because it really helps make a determination about the cause of the low blood sugar.
okay, so there was a limit, as the state understands your testimony, doctor, there was a limited time during which those tests that you mentioned could have been performed that would have helped definitively determine the insulin issue.
That's right. The test should have been performed on arrival at the emergency room when the other blood tests were performed, or as soon as it became evident that the blood sugar was extremely low.
Stuck as hell.
And what's the impact of
new one.
treatment?
Gotta get new one these
had
days.
the treatment taken place
Had it
and then
for
those
years.
tests performed,
It is.
what would have been the relationship between those two factors?
What happens is the treatment of low blood sugar is glucose or sugar. And when sugar is administered, it changes the results of some of the blood tests that we draw and makes them unhelpful.
Okay, so those tests were not performed. So what alternative means is there to determine the outcome or the impact of insulin or lack thereof?
In my prior experience with the other cases, And again, in this case, the only thing left to do is to go through all the possible causes of low blood sugar and determine if they are credible or possible in this case.
And how many of them would there be?
There are many. I listed, I believe, 13. I left some possible causes out because they don't apply in adults, or because it was very clear from the history of this particular person that the causes would not apply, and I listed 13 causes.
Let's talk about those 13 causes, doctor. Let's go through them, please, and your process of discussing them and ruling them in or out as a potential cause.
Of course. Okay. So the first one I listed, and it's in no particular order, but I'll just go through the way I listed them 2 years ago. That many patients who have diabetes are treated with medications that cause low blood sugar, and that's what we see most often. But the person we're talking about now did not have diabetes and was not taking any of those medicines. End-stage liver failure, we call it hepatic failure, can cause low blood sugar because the liver is a good source of sugar for the body when someone isn't eating. And our patient here did not have any liver problems that would be considered end-stage liver problems. He had a minor abnormality of a couple of tests over many years that were not affecting him. End-stage kidney failure can cause a low blood sugar because the kidney makes blood sugar, oddly enough, and helps control blood sugar when people need it. And his kidney function was excellent. A very severe systemic infection, that means an infection that spreads from where it started into the bloodstream, can cause a low blood sugar, and we have no evidence of that. He didn't have a fever, even at the time that someone checked his his temperature at home, and he didn't have low blood pressure, which is associated with widely disseminated severe infection. He did receive an antibiotic prior to the test we do to check for systemic infection, but he received only one dose, and that dose would not likely have been enough to make that blood test negative, and it was negative when it was done at the next hospital. Very, very, very severe malnutrition can cause, rarely, but can cause a low blood sugar. But this gentleman was not malnourished. He had a normal body weight, and in fact, he was interested in bodybuilding and was muscular. So it was not, that would not apply.
I forgot the bells. Oh God, Shelly reminded me right then and there. We'll hit them. We'll hit them now.
Excess alcohol can cause it in a certain particular circumstance. It can cause it when someone drinks a lot of alcohol and then doesn't eat. That has to do with how alcohol works in the liver, that it suppresses one way of making sugar but not the other. So if someone drinks a lot and doesn't eat for a few days, we can see low blood sugar. And we don't have evidence of that. We don't have a history of alcohol use. His alcohol level was undetectable, and that's not an issue. An insufficiency of the adrenal gland can cause low blood sugar, rarely in adults, mainly in children, but it can. And we don't have any evidence that this person had a problem with his adrenal. It was working very well. He was on a nasal steroid, which sometimes is used in very high amounts, could possibly suppress his adrenal gland, but that wouldn't be operative in him. And those steroids are not strong enough to cause adrenal insufficiency. Sometimes medications unrelated to diabetes can cause low blood sugar, but there are very, very few that are really believable. I made a list of the medicines he said he was taking. One of those on the list, I subsequently learned, was not what he was taking. Thought he was taking something called enclomiphene, which people may have heard of as a fertility drug. Sometimes it's used in males to help increase testosterone. He thought he was taking that, but he was actually taking letrozole, which is a medicine that is used in breast cancer patients to stop male hormones from converting to female hormones, and downstream that tells the body to make more testosterone. So that doesn't have an effect on blood sugar. He was maybe taking a seizure medicine. It's not clear if he's taking it. That's not associated with blood sugar problems. He was taking pseudoephedrine. If anything, pseudoephedrine would raise the blood sugar, but it doesn't cause low blood sugar. I was taking an asthma medication and some inhaled antihistamine, and again, those do not cause low blood sugar. A malignancy is another cause. Malignancy, that means cancer, is another cause of low blood sugar when it's widely spread and very end stage, and it's not very common, and we had no evidence of that in this healthy young man. There is a tumor of the pancreas. It's called an insulinoma. Oma means tumor, making insulin. And those are rare. I've seen a number of them. They tend to present over time. Someone has complaints over months to years when the blood sugar is found to be low. And they're relatively easy to treat. They don't they're not what we call refractory, meaning hard to treat, where you have to give a lot of sugar to bring the sugar up. So it would be very, very unlikely that he would have had an insulinoma. The next item, number 11, is a very, very rare situation where there's no insulinoma, but the body acts like there is one. And we see this most often in people who have had gastric bypass surgery. And he did not. So that would be highly unlikely. Near finally, there is what we call the factitious use of medications that cause low blood sugar, where someone takes them, call for attention, call for help. We don't know why that happens. And they're pills. Those pills,
clicking
rarely,
on the screen is not
some of them
me.
are very weak and
Someone
don't
in the
cause
courtroom.
low blood sugar.
Yes,
Some of them
hear
are stronger and can cause low blood sugar, but they don't cause low potassium, which we'll talk about later. And our patient here had a low potassium. Finally, antibodies to insulin can cause a low blood sugar. It's been rarely reported in Caucasians. It's mainly reported in Asian countries and in patients with autoimmune problems. And our patient here did not have autoimmune problems. There was a small amount, or we don't know how much, the urine screen for benzodiazepine, which is a tranquilizer, was found in his urine. Usually when that's found, we need to have a blood test to follow up on how much and what it could be, but that wasn't done. There have been some reports of low blood sugar with that medicine. I looked at them carefully. There was a paper from Iran that said that people who came in with overdose of benzodiazepine had lower sugar than those who had other reasons for Interestingly, in that paper, they didn't tell us what the blood sugar was. They didn't say how low the blood sugar was. Another paper by those same authors reporting something similar showed blood sugars in the 80s. And we generally define low blood sugar as less than 55. So I'm not sure if that information is quite believable, and it's not in the mainstream of the list of medicines that cause low blood sugar. Some antibiotics we know can cause low blood sugar. He did not receive any of those that we're aware of.
Doctor, you indicated you had the records from Raleigh General Hospital from his admission on February 6th of 2019. Did you see in there the blood glucose level that Raleigh General's testing detected?
Yes.
What was it?
21.
21. What's the clinical significance of a 21 blood glucose level?
I would call that a profoundly low blood sugar. Very, very low, which we rarely see. And it's at the magnitude that we were seeing in the cases that I reviewed in the other two series that I told you about, where it's extremely low. I would say that, for me, it's a big call to attention.
To do
What
more
is this
fucking
about?
tests.
Why is this sugar
Jesus.
so low?
But as you've already indicated, even though that calls your attention to it, it did not at Raleigh General Hospital, and none of the testing that you've suggested
They were just like,
was
eh.
performed.
That's correct.
What is the impact on blood glucose of skipping meals?
I'm sorry, I lost the last part of your question.
What is the impact on blood glucose of skipping meals?
A normal person will not have a low blood sugar if he or she skips a meal. The only time that would happen in a normal person is maybe someone treated with insulin for diabetes or with another medication that causes insulin to be produced for diabetes, and then they don't eat. Yes, we can see a low blood sugar, but a non-diabetic person who doesn't eat will have a normal liver response and produce enough sugar to keep the sugar in the normal range. Our bodies are designed to maintain normal blood sugar, and skipping a meal will not cause a low blood sugar in a normal person.
What's the impact of alcohol abuse on blood glucose?
As I said earlier, when someone has a big binge of alcohol and then doesn't eat, that combination is required to cause low blood sugar. If you have an alcohol binge and eat, it's not going to happen.
Now, you mentioned that you found significance in the potassium level of Mr. Cochran at Raleigh General Hospital.
Yeah, I don't think it
Can you
would have
expand
been
on that?
21, right? Jeez.
Yes. There are very few causes of low potassium. Let's go through them. If someone has severe diarrhea, they can lose potassium. If someone has very significant vomiting, copious, tons of vomiting over and over and
Copious
over
amounts
for
of
a
vomit.
long period of time, they can lose potassium. If someone is taking a diuretic that wastes potassium in the urine, they can have a low potassium. If someone has too much cortisol production over a long period of time by a tumor in either the adrenal or the pituitary, they could have low potassium. But or the adrenal, not the pituitary.
Used to rock the fuck out of that when I was a kid. Like a
Another
little kid.
cause of low potassium
Old
is
cut metal.
a high dose
Got
of
the M
insulin.
going.
In fact, for years we were treating
It was like a
high
McDonald's.
potassium with a combination of insulin and sugar. The reason is insulin drives sugar into the cell, and at the same time, it drives potassium into the cell. So it takes it out of the bloodstream and makes the potassium low. And as I told you, I had reviewed a lot of cases of insulin, people who had received high doses of insulin in West Virginia and in Pennsylvania, and a good number of them also had low potassium for no other reason that we could determine.
Doctor, you also mentioned at Raleigh General there was a detection of benzodiazepine in Mr. Cochran's body. How did Raleigh General determine that?
They did a urine screen, which is the first step. And it's usually followed by a blood test, but that was not performed.
In this case, did the urine screen tell you the amount of the benzodiazepines in Mr. Cochran's system?
No, it doesn't tell us the amount, and it doesn't even tell us when he might have taken it.
Can you expand on
Put a
that?
poll up.
Before.
Do you think Natalie is guilty as of now? Yes, no, not sure.
I'm sorry?
The urine screen could be positive for a number of days after someone's taken a benzodiazepine.
Okay. And doctor, what is the impact of taking insulin if you're a non-diabetic and a basically healthy person and they receive insulin? What's the impact of that?
A healthy person who receives insulin, certainly a significant amount, will have a low blood sugar reaction because their own pancreas makes enough insulin that they don't
split
need
out of
it,
5 votes.
and it will drive the sugar down.
Is there any way to tell in retrospect how much insulin it would have taken for Michael Cochran's blood
not great.
glucose level to be at 21?
No, but it was likely a fair amount, enough to drive the potassium down and to lower the sugar to that very, very low level. The kind of studies that are done about how insulin works and how much is needed are done in first normal volunteers to see what the time course of action is of the insulin. And those patients are given the insulin and they're also given sugar back so they don't get sick from low blood sugar. And in patients with diabetes, we give a variety of doses depending on their needs. So we don't really have data. No one is experimenting with giving very large doses of insulin to normal people because they don't need it. And there's not a reason for us to know about that.
She's like, I've experimented with it.
The result of a blood glucose level of 21 at Raleigh General Hospital,
Allegedly.
would that be the expected result if Mr. Cochran had been given insulin that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, that's all the questions the state has. Thank you.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Selden.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Krieger. I'm Stanley Selden. I'm co-counsel for Natalie Cochran.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, that's just shitty hospital. And
First of all,
that
how
totally
did you
sees
learn
what sucks.
of
Like
this
this area
case?
I'm in is
And who hired you?
trash. Like even up the
I
road
received a
an hour.
call
Like for
sometime
being
in
serious, best hospital for me is 2 hours away. I would say.
probably from Mr. Hatfield.
Who was the prosecuting attorney
Seen some
at that
dark
time,
shit.
correct?
I don't like it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Did Mr. Hatfield hire you on behalf of the prosecutor's office and the state of West Virginia?
Yes.
Okay. And they are paying your fee, isn't that correct?
Yes.
He's like, I'm gonna take a break real quick.
Just a few preliminary questions.
She's like, are you all right, dude? What the fuck?
Why
While you're
does the body
dying
need
actively?
blood sugar?
We need blood sugar to fuel our cells to do all the work of staying alive. The brain needs blood sugar to work. The muscles need it. It's the engine of life.
And how does blood sugar work in the body?
See some fajitas coming through. Thank you, ladies, for letting me know. Let's get a quick fix there. Boom, 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 boom.
What do you mean?
I appreciate it.
What's the source of blood sugar in the body, and how does it affect the body? How does it work in the body?
Food is the source of blood sugar, but there's also a deposit of substances in the liver and the muscles to keep the blood sugar normal when we're not eating. After all, people sleep for 8 or 10 hours. They might not eat for 12 hours, yet the blood sugar is maintained.
Excuse me, doctor. I asked you, just a moment, Dr. Krieger. I asked, how does sugar work in the body?
It fuels the metabolism.
I don't like this guy at all. This guy sucks.
What is hypoglycemia?
Hypoglycemia means low blood sugar, usually defined as less than 55.
And how do you come up with that figure? Because the information I have is that in a 38-year-old male like Michael Cochran, low blood sugar is defined as less than 70 milligrams per deciliter, not 55.
Well, like in many definitions, there are all sorts of sources.
Well, I have a paper
that you
that
might
says
read, but
under
the conventional level
fucking
that I'm aware of from my reading and teaching is 55. 70 is what might refer to below 70. Some of the hormones might change in response to what the body might think is a falling blood sugar, but 70 is not defined as low blood sugar.
There's still like science coming out on this shit. Like,
Is there any specific number or measure of blood sugar in a 38-year-old male Caucasian? What's the range of, quote, normal, unquote?
who are you quoting?
Well, that changes over time. You know, these types of things are not fixed. Usually 80 to 100. Diabetes begins at 125, and pre-diabetes begins at 100. These are fasting levels.
Okay, so,
Levels will go up after meals.
all right, so from that answer, you said 80 and up, and then you talked about diabetes. So 70 actually would be low blood sugar level in a 38-year-old male Caucasian, correct?
No.
It's not,
Correct.
okay. It's not within the normal limits that you just said. You said 80 to an upper number of 100, 120, something like that, right?
But 70 is not considered hypoglycemia.
All right.
or low.
All
I
right.
look at hundreds of laboratory
Imagine
reports
arguing with this
a
dude at
week,
the dinner table.
and I would not pay attention to 70 in a healthy person.
All right. Let me move on.
Fine, let's move on. You know what? Screw it. You know what? No. You know what? You know what? Sure. Fine. You know what? I've got other questions. I've got more.
It's
Don't
been
worry.
suggested or alleged that Michael Cochran, on February 6th of 2019, got an injection of insulin on that day. Now, they're referencing a specific type of insulin, Humalog Lispro insulin. That is what we call a fast-acting type of insulin. Isn't that correct?
Humalog or Lispro is a fast-acting insulin.
Right.
Yes.
And if an injection of Lispro Humalog insulin is injected in a person, it takes approximately 15 minutes for it to start to work. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if someone was injected with this specific type of insulin, they wouldn't just drop to the ground unconscious immediately. It would take some time for it to act. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Now, this particular type of insulin works over a specified period of time. And that time period, when it's active or working in the body, is approximately 3 to 4 hours. Isn't that correct?
Well, that varies.
Is that not a
That
good...
does depend.
Let me clarify. It works for, at most, 4 to 5 hours in the body. Isn't that correct? Under normal circumstances.
Under normal circumstances, but at high doses, it could last considerably longer.
What do you consider a high dose? Let me clarify that. If a 10 milliliter bottle of insulin was injected into a normal person, approximately how long would it be active in the body?
Well, that's a huge amount of insulin, and we can't know how long it would be active, but we do know that massive doses and very high doses last a lot longer than conventional doses.
But you don't know how long that lasts, right?
No one knows because no one would study that. It's not done in healthy people, and we wouldn't need to know that. So there's no information about that. But we do know that higher doses last longer.
Is there any definitive information that says human Lispro insulin injected into the body works any longer than 7 hours, no matter what the dosage is?
We don't have that information.
Okay.
But we don't know how many doses he got, how many injections he got.
You've answered my question. Thank you. Now, I believe you said that you recognized that a urine toxicology test was done on Michael Cochran when he was admitted on February 6, 2019 to the hospital, and that test was positive for benzodiazepines. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And this urine toxicology test or report could not tell you the identity or the blood level of benzodiazepines. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And we don't know the source of those benzodiazepines. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Are you aware that benzodiazepines can cause low blood sugar and hypoglycemia?
That's been reported, but as I said earlier, the reports are vague. They don't list the blood sugar levels, and in one paper that reports it, the blood sugar is listed in the 80s as average. So that is not clearly, it has not been clearly established.
So are you saying that benzodiazepines in someone can't cause low blood sugar?
I'm saying that we don't have a lot of information supporting that, and the information we do have is quite weak, as it is with a lot of other medicines that have been linked with hypoglycemia.
All right, let me move on to another question. Are you aware that a drug overdose of benzodiazepines could cause what they call hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy with cerebral edema, which we'll call HIE?
No.
You're not aware that benzodiazepines can cause that condition, which includes cerebral edema?
No, I'm not.
Hear him chuckle, like, bro.
Well, I would submit to you that HIE with cerebral edema is a condition that's essentially irreversible brain damage caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain with brain fluid on the brain, right? Isn't that the definition of HIE with edema?
I can't comment since it's not a condition I'm familiar with, and I'm not a neurologist or expert in that topic.
So you don't know, correct?
Yes.
Is hypoglycemia the only cause for cerebral edema? Because you talk about cerebral edema in your testimony previously.
No, it is not.
Okay. Isn't it true that other causes of cerebral edema include drug overdose, brain cancer, tumors, high altitude carbon monoxide poisoning, trauma, systemic infection, encephalitis, and hepatic encephalopathy?
That sounds like a reasonable list, none
Okay.
of which we know he has.
I didn't ask you that. You don't know if he had a drug overdose or not, correct?
Yes.
Wouldn't this cerebral edema, and again, that's fluid on the brain, from these other causes appear the same on a CT scan?
Yes. The brain tumor might not appear the same, because that would be localized.
Okay, but these other causes,
Where is the tumor?
these other causes could appear on a CT scan, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And a CT scan shows brain damage. That's the reason to do a CT scan, right?
The reason to do the CT scan in his case was that he had an altered consciousness.
And altered consciousness could mean he had damage to his brain, right?
Yes.
Okay. And a CT scan doesn't tell you the cause of cerebral edema, correct?
Yes.
So to sum up these questions, Michael Cochran's cerebral edema, which was diagnosed, and might be the cause of his brain problems and ultimate brain death, isn't solely caused by hypoglycemia. Isn't that correct?
Well, you're asking me about Michael Cochran. I think the question I can answer is hypoglycemia is not the only cause of cerebral edema.
Okay, that's sufficient. You comment in your report that there were no other abnormalities to cause Michael Cochran's hypoglycemia. Did you not see Michael Cochran's extremely elevated white blood cell count, which was above 17,000?
I did see that,
Okay,
and that can be a
that's all I asked you. And for the jury's information, white blood cells in the body fight infections and toxins and things
Like, even
of
if
that
that's like
sort.
what he wants to
Isn't that
say,
correct?
it's just the way he says it.
That's one of their functions.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and they can be raised by a number of things.
This
Not
is
only-
And that wasn't my question. My
Oh,
question
God, it's
was,
a little
one of
spicy
their
here.
functions is to fight
Give it hell.
infection. And you answered that
Doctor.
correct.
Dr. Krieger. Give it some of those right there. Spicy.
Did you
emotions.
see the report in the emergency room that included infection for which he was given intravenous antibiotics?
He received one dose of an intravenous antibiotics because they were
Okay,
worried.
I just asked you if you saw the report that says he was given intravenous antibiotics, and your answer is yes. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, an infection in the body can cause low blood sugar levels as well as insulin. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
It'd be funny if these two did go out on a date after this. Well, let's just get together. It's just this. Over like a nice Italian meal. Glass of wine. It's just
Just a
endless
moment, Your Honor. I want to review my notes very quickly.
All right.
little jabs at each other. I didn't ask you about the salad. I didn't ask you about the salad.
Michael Cochran was admitted to the hospital on February 6th of 2019, and he received treatment at Raleigh General and CAMC in Charleston for approximately
Charleston's the
5
best hospital.
days when he was
It's
discharged
2 hours from
on February 11th
So
of
he was like an hour from us,
2019
a
to
little better.
hospice care. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And during that
It's a
whole time,
nicer, it's the best one in the state.
with doctors
I would
treating
imagine.
him, doing various tests
Well, maybe not. Maybe there's
going
like a
through
fancier,
everything
richier one, a private one.
to
but
try and figure
public
out
ones,
what his
it's just-
problems were, there was no suspicion
be like a
of
St. Louis or
insulin
something.
in
Oh,
his
hey,
body,
go
and they
on. Hey,
didn't
hey,
do
hey.
any testing
Yeah, I'm
to
saying.
definitively
Yeah, I'm
decide
saying.
that. Isn't that correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Dude. That's what's sad. I feel like if there had maybe been a little bit more tests, you know, we could have a little bit more of a definitive answer if it is what happened. You know, I get it. I get what folks
All right. Now I
are,
want to discuss
they're saying
Michael
that the state
Cochran's
don't. I mean, it's not the
glucose
best at all.
or blood sugar levels from the time he was admitted on February 6th of 2019 at approximately 12 noon. And I have an exhibit, which I would like marked as defendant's next numbered exhibit.
He was not admitted at 12
Yep.
noon, just to be
Like, dude,
correct.
I'm a
I didn't
purge
say
now.
12 noon, I just said he was admitted.
Dude,
Okay?
this one's funny because he did. Listen, he says 12 noon.
I would like marked as defendant's next numbered
Listen to his
exhibit.
K at the end. It's so sassy.
He was not admitted at 12 noon, just to
Hold on.
On February level, that's Michael Cochran's glucose. All right, now.
Hold on, right here. Listen, he says 12.
All right, now I want to discuss Michael Cochran's glucose or blood sugar levels from the time he was admitted on February 6th of 2019 at approximately 12 noon. And I have an exhibit, which I would like marked as defendant's next numbered exhibit.
He was not admitted at 12 noon, just to be correct.
I didn't say 12 noon, I just said he was admitted. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Wish the judge would have been like, well, actually, sir. I wish the court reporter would have been
Thank
like,
you.
actually, you did.
Thank you. And I have previously given a copy to the prosecutor.
All right.
I'd like to put it on this viewer if possible, and I'm not real adept at that.
Oh,
so I
yeah,
could
and then they
use some
make,
assistance.
All right. I'll ask
They're
the
about to
bailiff
take a break, and like they
assist.
let the jury. They let the jury look
We may
over
not
what
be
he
able
wants
to
to
do
show,
that.
and then we come back.
matters that we need.
Dr. Kubicek will be plotting.
In the meantime,
This judge is super kind. He's nice. What's up, a car shop?
all right, members of the jury, you will see document presumed and Mr.
Krieger into it. Now, Dr. Krieger, it's been alleged that Michael Cochran took a variety of supplements, substances, or other undeclared medications. And because they've been undeclared, you don't have any idea what he was taking or what effect it had on his body. Wouldn't that be a fair question?
Yes.
Okay. You said that you reviewed one autopsy report. Was that right?
Yes, prior to my writing of my 2023 report, yes.
Okay. Was that Dr. Kubicek's report. He's the medical examiner for West Virginia. Is that the report
Yes.
you reviewed? Yes.
Yes.
Did you note in his conclusions that he said the cause of death and the manner of death was undetermined? Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, check out the poll, anybody randomly coming in.
Now I'd like to turn to defendant's exhibit number 10, which the jury has copies of. And you have a copy of that as well, Dr. Krieger, isn't that correct?
Yes.
It's like,
Okay.
yes, bitch.
Now, at the top, it says, with a double asterisk, alleged event is approximately 12 p.m. on February 6, 2019. What that is referring to is that there's an approximation of what time Natalie Cochran, if at any time, she injected Michael Cochran with insulin. That's all that means. And we don't have an exact time. It just says approximate time, 12 p.m. Do you note that at the top?
I see that.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, you said that too earlier. Just to
Because there
clarify.
is no actual witness to Natalie Cochran injecting Michael Cochran on February the 6th of 2019 with anything. We don't have a witness who's going to state that. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, also at the top, there is a note that says hypoglycemia is sugar, meaning blood sugar, less than 70 milligrams per deciliter in a person without diabetes. That's up for debate. You said under 55, I believe. Is that right?
That's right. The reason I said that is that when we do testing,
I don't need you to go into any detail. I'm just clarifying what your statement was. Okay? Thank you. Now, this is a chart that has the date and time of testing for blood glucose in Michael Cochran. First column is the date and the time, and unfortunately it's military time, but I'll go through that. The second column is the blood glucose level. The third column is the hours since the alleged event. Again, the alleged event is suspected injection of Michael Cochran with insulin. And the fourth column is, it says, was Lispro active in his body? Lispro is the Humalog insulin alleged to be the subject of all of this controversy. Okay? Is that clear?
yes.
Okay. And I hope it's clear to the jury. I'll move on. The first entry is February 6th, 2019, the date when Michael Cochran was first admitted to the hospital. And it says 2020, which is 8:20 p.m. Do you note that?
Yes.
Okay. The second column says that his blood glucose level was 21. Now, you've made a lot of comments about that. That's extremely low by anybody's calculation, right?
Yes.
Okay. The third column says that the time frame of the taking of that level is 8 hours and 20 minutes after the time Michael was supposed to be injected. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay? Is it your testimony that the insulin, Humalog, Lispro insulin, alleged in the case, could still be active in Michael's body 8 hours and 20 minutes after alleged injection.
It's possible if a very high dose was used or if additional doses were given.
I'm talking about a singular injection of Humalog insulin. Would a singular injection, no matter the quantity, the volume, still be active and causing effects in Michael Cochran's body 8 hours and 20 minutes after injection?
The quantity and volume does matter.
Is it your testimony that the Humalog insulin could still be active
Interesting
in
theory,
Michael
Pam.
Cochran's body 8 hours and 20 minutes later? Irregardless of the volume, I'm talking about a single injection. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Second column. It's dated February 7th, 2019. That's the next day after Michael's in the hospital. It's 23, which is 12:23 a.m. The blood glucose level isn't available. The third column says 12 hours and 23 minutes after alleged injection of a single dose. Is it your testimony that Lispro Humalog insulin can still be active in Michael Cochran's body?
Well, there's no additional hypoglycemia except a finger stick further down in the list. So
I'm just asking you,
Jesus,
is it
you
your
are.
testimony? And I don't care about blood glucose level. I'm asking, can this type of insulin still be active in Michael Cochran's body 12 hours and 23 minutes later?
it's unlikely.
Okay. So the subsequent tests, well, let me go on. February 7th, 2019, 12:28 a.m. We don't know the blood glucose level. It's now 12 hours and 28 minutes. Is it still your testimony that the insulin is unlikely to
Get the fajitas out of here. Little sizzling. Everybody, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it.
be active in Michael's body at this time?
If only one injection were given at that time, yes.
Okay.
That's interesting theory also, Brooke. Or just a thought, really, because it was
Now,
right before
the
COVID. Well,
next entry
it's early
is February
2019.
7th of 2019. It's
February 2019.
12:33 a.m.
It's like a year before.
Now, Michael's blood
But,
glucose
you know,
is on the rise. It's
'cause they did get
going
him
up.
twice,
It's
but
all the way
I
up
don't know.
to 63, 12 hours and 33 minutes later. Now,
Oh, yeah, you got the
isn't
spicy
it
one,
true
Laura.
that if there was a single
It's a good
injection
one.
and given this level,
And Laura coming through wanting to buy some
the insulin's no
F&O
longer
shirts. Hell
active?
yeah. I'll get with you, Laura. We'll make
Likely that
it
it's
happen.
not a single injection and
Okay.
the blood sugar is not low now.
That's all I asked you. Next entry, February 7th, 1:55
2019, February
a.m.
2019.
Blood glucose is on the rise. It's all the way up to 80, 13 hours and 55 minutes. The Lispro insulin's not active
Seems
anymore,
like
right?
not that long ago, but also a lifetime ago. It's,
Correct.
time
Okay.
is so weird.
February 7th, 2:17 a.m. Now his blood glucose is all the way up to 187, 14 hours and 17 minutes later. Lispro, insulin, not active, cannot cause that reaction, correct?
Well, high blood sugar would be caused by insulin anyway, but yes.
Yeah. And we don't know what time. They're doing things to try and raise Michael Cochran's glucose level. They gave him an injection of dextrose D50 at the emergency room. That is an attempt to raise his blood glucose levels, correct?
Yes.
Right. And it's taking effect. It's working. His blood glucose levels are going up, right?
Yes.
Okay. February 7th, 5:13 a.m. His blood glucose now drops all the way down to 44. 17 hours and 13 minutes later. How do you account for that?
Well, that one could be an outlier because that one was done by finger stick, not by blood, by finger prick. And per my review of the record, I didn't see that anything was done in response to that. And then the next one, shortly
Well, I just asked you. I just asked your
She's trying to answer the
explanation.
question, Mr. Seddon. Let her go ahead.
I think the judge was like, dude,
Continue,
fucking
Ms.
stop.
Dr. Kreger.
Jesus Christ.
Thank you. What I was saying is that the finger stick at 44, according to my review of the record, did not receive any action. So there was nothing given in response to that. And a short time later, the sugar was normal again. So I don't really know if that has much meaning.
Okay. But you can say, since it's 17 hours and 13 minutes after the alleged injection of insulin, that insulin is not working in Michael's body at this time. Correct?
His own insulin is likely working,
Shit,
but
baby. Damn.
an injection given at noon would not likely
Stuck a
work.
shot in.
Okay.
Boom.
I'm just asking about the single injection given at noon on February 6th. That's all these questions are directed at. Okay?
Yes.
All right. At 6:22 a.m. on February 7th, his insulin's on the rise again. It's up to 95, and that's within normal range according to your testimony. Isn't that right?
Yes, it's not insulin, it's glucose. But
Glucose, sorry. Okay. 18 hours, 27
I'm
minutes
gonna
later,
go to Beckley and fight this man. I can do it.
insulin
I'll be there
not
tomorrow waiting
active
on
in
him.
his
Hey,
body.
buddy. Clean
Correct.
it up. Chill it out, pal.
yes, and that's from a noon injection,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, Ben Stein, that's right. He's the Ben Stein.
Now, I'm not going to go through
Dude, that one,
the other
dude, he looked
entries,
just like Ben Stein, that one string.
and I'm sure
he
the
did.
jury appreciates that. But Michael's blood glucose levels are back on the rise, and now they're all the way up into at least normal range, and there's no activity or effect from a single injection of Humalog, Lispro, insulin alleged to have been given at approximately noon on February 6th. Isn't that correct?
Why does he have to be
Okay.
such a douchebag with his tone, bro? Jesus.
I think we're done with that exhibit for now.
All right, I'll ask the bailiff to collect the copies.
Your review of now In your review of all of the records and everything you reviewed in this case, it has been alleged that Michael Cochran was using undeclared supplements or substances or other medications, and because it's not clearly in the records, you wouldn't have any idea what he was taking or its effects on his body. Wouldn't that be a fair statement?
Yes.
You state in your report in the conclusions, in summary, that Michael Cochran's, quote, hypoglycemia due to insulin administration is a strong possibility. So from that statement, you cannot say that insulin was the one and only factor that caused Michael Cochran's hypoglycemia. Isn't that correct?
It's the only credible explanation since none of the other explanations work.
I didn't ask you if it was credible. I said you cannot say it's the one and only. You're only stating it's a strong possibility. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. To what degree of medical certainty is a strong possibility? What is that?
That's not quantified.
Okay. I believe that's all the questions I have at this time. Thank you.
All right, redirect Mr. Truman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, this started off some time ago by asking who is paying you to be here today, and you responded that the state. Would the fact that the state's paying you cause you to alter your testimony or your opinions in any manner?
No.
Defendant's 10. Doctor, defendant's exhibit number 10, which was a document emailed to you while we were on a break, that's based on some assumptions that there was a single dose at noon. There is nothing in States 10 that would eliminate the possibility of multiple injections of insulin, is there?
Objection, Your Honor. That's not the facts and evidence.
Overruled.
You can answer, Doctor, please.
Yes. It's very likely that there was another injection or another type of insulin in addition or to the Lispro.
There was some discussion about benzodiazepines and
Amy
Michael
thinks that
Cochran.
he was jabbed again in the hospital.
Is there anything in the records that would cause you to believe that that would be responsible for his low blood glucose level?
She did do it. I mean, she,
No, and in fact,
being in her position anyways, in the medical field, probably also knew how shitty they are.
When we have a patient who
Maybe
has
even knew folks in the
an
hospital
allergy
and
to one
could deter
medicine
the
and
possibility of an
causes them not
autopsy.
to
I don't
have
know.
others. So I don't
Just
know how to
speculation.
reconcile all of
Just
that.
speculative.
What
But
the allergy was about and
yeah, this one's weird, man. It's
whether he
the state
would
does not
take
have
why
a
he was
definitive
taking that
case
medication.
that's just knocking it out of the park. But
One theory presented to you by the defense was
Also-
that it might have his blood glucose level may have dropped because of a
Sure
drug
seems like
overdose. Is there
she killed
any
him.
evidence whatsoever that Michael Cochran overdosed on any drug other than
but again,
insulin?
if you're a part of that jury
no.
with this, again, it goes back to the poll. Could you pull the trigger on that? Right?
There was also the matter of the high
57% out of here,
like
out of
white
14 votes said yes.
blood count.
They think she's guilty.
And you
14
started
no,
to
and
address
29
that
not
issue
sure.
and you were stopped. So let me give you the opportunity to explain the treatment and the end result of the high white blood count.
Yes. While it is true that we see a high white blood cell count with infection, it's not the only cause. When blood sugar goes extremely low, other hormones rise, and those hormones, particularly cortisol, will cause white blood cells to look high. We see this a lot in patients who have excess cortisol for other reasons, and that's a possible explanation. Since there was no evidence for infection, he didn't have a fever, he didn't have a low blood pressure. I'm talking about enormous infection that would cause a low blood sugar. Fever, no low blood pressure, no evidence of infection on exam, and a negative blood culture after the single dose of antibiotic that would not have tamed a rip-roaring infection bad enough to cause a low blood sugar.
How would you expect a non-diabetic person to physically react if they were given insulin? What kind of symptoms would you expect to see?
There's a cascade of events that occur. As the sugar begins to drop, people feel sweaty, shaky, they can have pounding in their chest, palpitations we call it. We can have people then can proceed to seizure, to coma, which is from the brain cell edema that we've talked about. So that's the cascade from hunger, shakiness, sweating, pounding in the chest, to seizure, coma.
You had indicated that 55 was the number you considered to be a low blood glucose. Can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Yes. In the testing we do when we are trying to figure out why someone has a low blood sugar, and we can't explain it yet, we use 55 as the cutoff, and we don't do the extra testing until the blood sugar is less than 55. When there are symptoms, less than 45 when there are no symptoms. So 55 is our cutoff for the testing.
Okay. When Michael Cochran went to Raleigh General and his blood glucose was measured at 21, and this may be out of your field, and if so, just say so, but had the damage already been done by that time?
Well, the brain edema had already started, yes.
That's all the questions the state has. Thank you.
Recross Mr. Selden.
We need to approach the bench.
All right.
Natalie Cochran allegedly injected Michael Cochran sometime around noon when he collapsed. Then there were people constantly checking. There were people constantly in and out of the house, numerous witnesses, people coming over, staying with Natalie, checking on Michael. So, and then Michael goes into the hospital at approximately 8 p.m. And he's in the hospital from February 6th of 2019 through and including February 10th or 11th when he goes to the hospice and passes away. When would there be an opportunity for Natalie Cochran to inject him multiple times given those facts?
Objection. That's beyond the scope of an endocrinologist's expertise.
Sustained.
Yeah, Kasha. Yeah, she goes up to the podium to the judge with
From a scientific
all the
point,
attorneys. Every time
based
they
on the
call,
records
sidebar. It's
which
weird.
note Michael's glucose levels, etc. When would additional injections occur to have the result of altering blood glucose levels, etc. We went all through that chart of the extensive testing and recording of his blood glucose levels from approximately 8 p.m. on February 6th through his stay at the hospital. Scientific evidence, when would an injection of insulin have occurred to have those results?
You're asking me to speculate.
I'm not asking you to speculate. I'm asking you, given the scientific medical evidence of blood glucose levels February 6th through his stay, like every 15 minutes, every half hour, when would those scientific information show another injection of insulin?
Well, we really have to explain the 21 because the other one, there's only one low, and that's a finger stick that wasn't treated and normalized without treatment. So it's really explaining the 21.
Okay, and the 21 was recorded initially or stated initially by a supposed witness, Ms. Hamilton. She's the one that said it was 21 when Michael was admitted to the hospital approximately 8 p.m. Do you recall that?
Wait a minute.
No, that was the
Wait,
plumber.
objection.
Just wait a minute, Doctor. Go ahead, Mr.
That
Truman.
wasn't the testimony. That came from Raleigh General 21, not Stephanie Hamilton.
All right,
This is
I
a
stand-
misleading question.
I'll withdraw it and I'll stand corrected.
Okay.
The 21 was when he was admitted to Raleigh General Hospital approximately 8 p.m. When would Natalie Cochran have an opportunity to inject him to cause that decrease in glucose?
Again, I would have to speculate, but sometime later in that afternoon.
All right. The prosecutor asked you on redirect about the white blood cell count. And the simple explanation of that is we don't know the cause of the
This lady is
Extreme.
so white. Look how white this lady is compared to everybody else. Is this a ghost?
elevation of the white blood cells. Isn't that correct?
No, there are certainly hypotheses that can be rendered, including.
But we don't, just a moment, we don't actually know. There weren't any definitive tests that would account for the elevated white blood cell count. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that sucks that these tests weren't performed.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Very well.
Could give us a little bit of a clearer answer, maybe.
I don't have any more questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Truman, anything further?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
Very well. Is there any reason to hold this witness at all?
Yeah,
Not
that's the
so
most
far as the
interesting
state's
thing from
concerned.
today, honestly.
Any reason from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Doctor. You are excused.
Thank you.
And they had another short day because they somebody wasn't there, a doctor that's coming in from Texas. So again, we're going into day 5. I think the state is going to be resting after that. After this, we got an Earl Gleam, FBI forensic examiner, firearms and tool marks expert. He had been given the insulin bottle basically to inspect if there had been puncture wounds. One of the insulin bottles that he was given did have puncture wounds, or a puncture rather. I know that I put that over on the old X machine. Yeah, photos of the vial of Humalog insulin. One puncture mark was detected, according to Gillum's report. Again, this was from Josephine Moore, who's in the courtroom. I've watched Natalie Cochran pass her defense attorney notes throughout the witness testimony. She says looks like she's passing the questions she wants them asked to ask or make observations about the testimony. I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name. Kuberzek. It was really hard to hear this person. He said that an autopsy was performed to Michael. Yeah, and then after the FBI dude, there was a guy that actually did an autopsy. I guess after one of the exhumes, when his body was actually exhumed, February 11th, 2019 is when he died. This autopsy was performed September 4th, 2019. Kuberzek said the autopsy was not performed sooner because it was initially believed that Michael died of natural causes. Michael's body had to be exhumed, but Kuberzek to perform the autopsy. At the time of the autopsy, Michael's body had been embalmed and was in a state of decomposition. And then again, they let out, at the end of the day, tomorrow, Michael and Natalie's son, who is underage, is going to be testifying, and we'll be able to hear that, but we won't be able to see it, which, understand that. But yeah, everybody coming through here tonight, I really appreciate it. We had a little bit of a slow night in here. But yeah, Laura, hell yeah, got with me. She wants to get some of these new fucking O's shirts. Next time you'll see me will probably be Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time with Dan. We'll be probably doing maybe this. I don't know. We'll see. And then, of course, Feral Friday. Got to come through for Feral Friday. We'll be hanging and banging hard that night for sure. And doing an unwind from the week like we always do. Watching, listening, doing something. You can guarantee that. I appreciate everyone for coming through here tonight. First of all, I'll give everybody a little bit of love. With
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Hey, motherfucker. But yeah, I will see everybody Thursday. Have a great rest of your evening and a great Wednesday. And if you're fucking in extreme temperatures, keep your water dripping. Be safe. Be careful. I know a lot of places are getting hit that don't even get snow, like Louisiana, New Orleans. There was a snowball fight on Bourbon Street earlier. Texas, Florida's getting hit. So, yeah. But yeah, we're going to be staying on this. Again, we're going to day 5 of this trial. Follow me on X if you aren't. I'll put that. Everybody in here, I'm sure, is following. But all right, guys. I will see you Thursday. Have a great Wednesday. Later.